Welcome, everybody, to Generation Dan, the only podcast where your guest gets sick and then it's just the two of you, and then the thumbnail doesn't make any sense. I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here?
And I'm Dino the Genetic Marvel. I was responsible for the thumbnail and could not update it before I got online. So there you go.
That's it. That's the only people who are here today. Apologies for what would be John Yabies being with us, but he got sick. Right. So he will be back on. Hang on, I was talking to him earlier. If you're like, I am a John Yabies fan, that is the only reason I am here. I hate you all. I'm not coming back until he's here December 1st.
There you go.
That's when he'll be back. So
I mean, just so you know. But in the meantime, that's why you should subscribe to these channels, and that way you'll know better to follow us when we have other things that you might be a super fan about. But this week we are talking about two things. Today is daylight saving time, which surprise, surprise, I woke up later and I was like, man, I feel so refreshed, yet it's so early. We turns like daylight savings time. I'm like, shenanigans. I love it. You know, there's nothing. The surprise is never better.
I have an alarm on the weekends that goes till 9. It like wakes me up at 9:30 because if I sleep in any further, it's just like I got too much sleep and I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I woke up and it was like 9:42. I was like, where the fuck was the alarm? And then I realized this is a crappy digital watch that doesn't update. You have to manually update it. And it was just 8:42 in the morning. So
see this is one of those things where like I have to plan when daylight savings times comes into effect in the spring, because that will ruin my entire day.
Why? Because you lose an hour of sleep?
Because you lose an hour, and that basically turns my entire day upside down. But on days like today, where you gain an hour, ooh, baby, it's delicious.
Yeah, butter me, honey. I am on a roll. Bill Cipher, the demon from Gravity Falls, says hello. Hi, Bill.
What's up, Bill? But yeah, see, and this is the thing is, you actually posted about this on your TikTok today. Was how, like, for you, you're loving the idea where you're a night owl, so you're like, this is so easy because I've gained an hour of night. It's fantastic, right? Yeah. Veronica, bonjour.
Yeah. They like, especially talking to my coworkers who are also teachers.
Yeah.
When we get out, particularly on Tuesday, so that staff meeting goes to like 4:30.
Yeah.
Usually, we'll get out, and now that daylight savings in effect, it's going to be. The sun's going to be mostly set. And they're like, oh, man, I didn't get to do anything all day. Now it's nighttime. I'm walking out like, I'm alive. Like,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we are doing good. We are enjoying the extra hour. Veronica, ça va bien? Et tu is the good question. What's happening? We're talking about, well, listen, this is the time when you being happier in cold and me being fat, this is the time where I am just it's so much easier for me to live. The transition period where you are in the morning you have to wear a full parka, then the afternoon is shorts, and then and progressively gets worse, is very frustrating. I have no idea how to speak or read Russian, so I'm sorry. To whoever
I like how Veronique was just like ... Bonjour.
Hello. And hello to you too. And also, like, I feel like this week has gone really well. So I finished working at the Halloween haunt on Saturday, so that's done. They're gonna mail me a check. But then we had Halloween this past week, which means I have a shit ton of candy that I have to get through now. So there has been a lot of posts on online saying that peanut M&Ms have been being shortchanged. Now, I remember every once in a while I'll get an empty small pack of peanut M&Ms, and I feel like that's God just telling me, going, "Hey, fatso, shut your mouth," right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of those things. What is Bill here? What's you saying here? That is why I hate daylight savings. It's because that like I wake up at like 1 p.m. and actually wake up at like 1 a.m. I mean,
that's a little too much daylight saving. Now I'm looking at the history of daylight saving time.
Yeah.
It used to be before the 19th century was each hour was divided 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, but they would just extend the amount of time for each hour based on the time of year or
Interesting.
accordingly. So like Romans would use it with water clocks. This would have made a good last minute history. But I think that's interesting because since like what the 50s, a couple of years that conversation comes up. We should get rid of daylight saving time. It's anachronistic. We don't need it anymore.
No.
Vote on it, and then nothing happens, and we're stuck with it. And then Arizona, so
I had to explain this to my wife. I'm like, the problem is daylight savings times is also a component of having time zones throughout the planet.
Right.
So the fact that some areas don't follow that rule, it just means that they are garbage and dumb. It does not like that's like daylight saving times, as frustrating as it is, it does serve a purpose. And my wife was like, yeah, but it's harder when you take medication and stuff like that because it's important for timing. And I'm like, the world doesn't revolve on you. Get over it.
Well, it's also
she got mad at me, so that's fine.
People who have kids, like little kids, where like to them it's just like, is it light out? Is it dark out? I don't know what the fuck 7:02 means. I can't read yet. So I'm just gonna go crazy and destroy your house because I'm 4 or whatever.
Also fair.
Yeah. Dogs, I like the number of heart attacks goes up during daylight saving time or after, whatever. The point is that like not a lot of people like it, but we just kind of do it because that's the norm.
Also true. But there's a lot of things. Listen, the months in of themselves are structured improperly. The only reason that we have 31 days in July and August is because of Augustus and Julius Caesar. That's it. That's the only reason, because they're dicks. So we should be following the lunar cycle for our months, and in actuality, the leap years that happens and all that kind of stuff, that should be free days that we don't have to do anything. Everything should be closed. We should have a party and be naked in the forest. But your
mileage may vary on that. I feel like if we had a woman guest for this week, that would have been more of a selling point.
If you've ever been in the forest with a bunch of women, they love dancing naked in the forest. That is just science. That's not on me. That's just how it is. Okay. That's where witches come from. It's not on me.
I need to. Do you remember the version of the Crucible from the 90s with Winona Ryder?
No.
Okay, so she was in the movie version of the Crucible, and there's a shot really, really early in the movie where they catch her dancing in the forest, and she shows her butt, dancing naked in the forest.
Listen, if you get on mushrooms, you'll want to dance in the forest. I'm just letting people know. There's one of those things.
Or you want to hear the first 30 seconds of Right Hand Man over and over and over.
That's also fair. What's up, TJ69? I respect your name.
Yeah.
And also, hi, Ezra. How are you?
We get all these new people every time. I love how it's like, constantly growing. Hi, everyone.
I appreciate it greatly. Please make sure you like and subscribe. We will talk about all sorts of things. And if you have an opinion on daylight savings time or the winter blues, as we will discuss, please chime in.
Yeah. So, daylight saving time. So a couple of years ago in the U.S. Congress, they voted to not outlaw, but just like phase out daylight saving time. And now there's this conversation of, do we keep it permanently on or off? Right now, where it fell back, it's off. So the between November and March, it's the shorter days, longer nights, supposedly. Aside from the fact that that's just how like the globe turns and days get longer and shorter for the summer and winter, respectively. But people are like, if you do permanently longer as like climate change gets worse, people are just going to bake in the heat. And then for people who want it permanently off, like me, everyone else is like, but I get sad when it's dark. So here's my solution. And I've gotten mixed reaction on this. We should flip it. So instead of spring forward, fall back, fall forward, spring back. So the people who complain about it getting dark at 5 p.m. from November to March can shut the hell up. A,
okay.
And B, in the summer where it's daylight saving time, when the days are already long, it doesn't get dark at 9 p.m. and I'm not running my AC for $200 power bills every month. We have it the wrong way.
So it's okay. First of all, what's up, Joey? How you doing, buddy? And as well, see, okay, that's fair. I'm keeping your post up, Bill, because we will talk about it. But that is a good idea. The problem here is, and look, there's no question that the earth is earthing, okay? Whether we like it or not. And this is one of those things where, like, being in Canada, I have a gajillion trees that are taking care of business for us, right? In places like China is affecting all of Indonesia and also Australia, where it is basically on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That sucks. Not my problem. I'm in Canada. Booyah. So,
well, there's a book called Ministry to the for the Future, where it starts with this horrible heat wave in India that kills several millions of people, and then that gets the world to kind of come together and be like, hey, we should treat future people as a demographic the same way we treat already alive people. So that causes people to start planning for, ahead. And we are getting those, and then we just don't. So that's fiction for you, but would love if that would happen.
This is the whole thing, is that anytime anyone makes a good point that, hey, if we all take a moment and think and not have our head up our ass, things would be great. This is factual at all times throughout history, with no regard to anything that anyone's doing. If you aren't a piece of garbage, you would consider your fellow man. If you are a piece of garbage, you don't return your grocery cart to the cart stall, and you should be burned at the stake. And that is the truth. Okay.
Honestly, I know, and this is just for the joke, but I would love for just somebody that works for the grocery store. They have like the crappy red vest.
Yep.
And then a pair of MMA gloves, and they just stand next to the cart return. Yep. The second they have to go get the cart, they will track down whoever it is and just across the face.
I love it. I feel that's justified. Now, Bill, what is my opinion on the second moon? You mean the Death Star that is approaching our planet? Yeah, sir. I have a lot of opinions on that, but we're not going to talk about that today, okay, Bill? You can tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about it probably on Life of Giants, because that's just all about conspiracies and things like that. But
so it's like I don't really get enough time to like check out Life of Giants most of the time, because when you guys are doing that, I'm in my classes for the district. So I never really get the chance to like check it out. Is that what it is most of the time, or like?
Well, no, we're trying on touching on real subjects, especially stuff about men's mental health and how to be better people. Because look, the fact is, it's the whole idea behind you should be able to defend yourself and choose peace. This is like, it's the same idea where I am not a good person, but I choose to have principles. Like, I don't lie to people. Okay. I don't, like, those things are important to me, right? I'm loyal to my wife. Like, these are principles that I have chosen to adopt in my life, and my honor and self-respect have no price by choice. If you cross me, though, I will rip your arms off and beat you to death with them. So, it's one of those things. So in the same sense, it's like, listen, choosing a life of peace is important for your own betterment of life. At the same time, being a peaceful person and being harmless are not conducive to your mental health. Being harmless is not good for your mental health, because that's where you get into incel territory and people get crazy, but they can't do anything about it. Whereas learning how to vent your anger in an appropriate fashion and to train physically and do those kind of things are very important to the male experience.
And like in the English class that I'm teaching, the unit that we're on, like a lot of it has to do with like gender.
Yeah.
And there was this article that we read that was like, we're failing men in education.
Yes.
Where kind of the only like emotion you're allowed to express is anger most of the time. And it's because of that, and the way that, like, most of the time it's that, like, snake eating its own tail of, like, teachers will think the boys are the ones doing the shitty things in class, so they act that out that way. So they think they're the shitty things in class, so they act out that way forever. So all of that is to say that we need to, like, teach boys that it's okay to do things like that, because or to, like, express emotions besides anger, sadness, joy, all that
100%.
stuff. And we're kind of doing it, just not fast enough.
But also we're doing it in a very backward way, right? So, like, a lot of therapy is directed towards actually discussing your emotions, not learning how to process them. And you're like, that's the problem, is men have a hard time discussing their emotions, and also are highly criticized when they express their emotions.
Yes, that is very true.
But learning how to process it in a beneficial way, because then, look, you're going to feel emotions. I literally just before starting the show watched a TikTok of it was a forest on fire, and it was a guy who in a helicopter filled with kids, and it wouldn't take off because it was too heavy because there were too many kids. So he asked the pilots, they're like, how much fuel do we have that's extra? He's like, X amount. He's like, dump it. He's like, if it catches fire, we're dead. He's like, just don't worry about that. Just dump it. Then he got the kids to take off all their shoes, backpacks, everything, throw it out the window. And then the guy goes, listen, close your eyes, count to 3, and believe in miracles. And boom, the helicopter takes off. Then all the kids look out the window, and the guy who saved them is on the ground as the pilots take off. He sacrificed himself.
Okay.
I teared up. That is fucking emotional.
Yeah.
But also, that is a worthy fucking death as a man, right?
Yeah.
So you're going like, but that's the thing, is, how do you process that? People don't understand what goes along with those feelings.
Yeah.
Quick question.
He's
are you
Canadian, and shut the fuck up. That's my answer to
that. Hey, you know what? I got an answer to that. If you follow our channels, Hammered and Cheese is doing an election special on Wednesday or on Tuesday starting at 8:30. We are going to be cooking, and then we're going to stay on as well. We're even going to have Cole's sister, and we're going to see, we might have other people on too, but we're going to discuss it then, because let's be honest, neither one of those are good options. So let's
is worse than the other.
I agree with you. I agree with you thoroughly. Maybe the one who wasn't democratically elected, but whatever. That's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We don't have to discuss it, Atlas. We don't have to discuss it. By the way, I've gone through 6 of the 7 peanut M&Ms, and most of them were between 4 and 6. However, then I have this gigantic one that I'm going to count out now.
It's not the same number of peanut M&Ms every time. It's different.
No, it is not.
Interesting.
This one has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This has 10 in there, which means there's probably another one that has 0, because that's how weight works.
Wow. So
there's a lot of sugar.
We got really, really far off track. The last thing I wanted to add about the boys thing.
No.
1 in 7 men report aged 18 to 35 report not having a close friend. Whether that's a result of the pandemic or not, I can't say, but I can say that, like, that's a problem, and that having friends is kind of what makes life worth living. Most of the people at my wedding were friends. You, Victoria, Hawkins, Dan, Emrys. Yeah. Like people who I've met and who I've, like, forged those bonds with on my own, and not just like, you guys share DNA, so you gotta be together.
Look, and my wedding
doesn't say you shouldn't, but just like, that's something.
My first wedding was all people that I'd known my whole life, plus relatives, plus Greek friends and stuff like that, and was heinous. We had 420 people at the wedding. It was insane.
Wow.
This one, with Victoria, we had 175. It was a fair mix between the two of us, and for my side was just all friends. I had probably around 75, 80 people, all friends, some parents of friends that I'm close with, that made an impact on my life. I'm like, absolutely. I want you there. right? And
part of it is also my sister and I got married around the same time, 6 months apart.
Also
so
helpful.
we had to let's divvy up the family between each other because both of my parents are the youngest of 5 and 6 respectively.
That's a big burden. It's a big
Want to
burden.
hear more about my dad? Check out the Aspen Chronicles episodes on the show with him.
And that's how you plug things, people.
That's how you plug things. Okay.
No. So, but yeah, that's why it's like people don't realize that like this is my problem with equality is no one is equal. This is the fact. Now, should people be treated with respect and dignity? Yes, all people, regardless. Now, but the fact is, men between men aren't equal. Women between women aren't equal. Men to women aren't equal. That is a ridiculous idea of people being equal. Should they be treated with respect and dignity?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's why. And people are like, no, we're all the same. You're like, no, we're not. We're not.
That's some 90s end of history. We are the world shit. That doesn't fly anymore.
And that's what the problem is, where everyone's going into that mentality where, oh, you don't have to do anything. Just calm down.
Yeah.
Right. And like the idea of like mental health. I don't think about things the same way you think about things.
No.
Or and I'll tell you this much. For years we would argue. And then I finally asked Victoria, I'm like, hey, when I raise my voice, what are you thinking? And she's like, why is he raising a voice? I'm like, now, if you actually listen to the words I was saying, you'd know exactly why I'm raising my voice. Because I am frustrated with the situation and I'm telling you exactly what the problem is. And she went, oh. And I was like,
yeah.
What? Right? That drives me crazy. But
I had a similar thing with Katie where she's like, why are you always so pissed off all the time? I'm like, why? She goes, anytime I ask you to do something, you do like this deep sigh. And I'm like, I do that deep sigh for literally any time I have to stand up. Watch.
That's also true.
And it's not because I'm pissed off. It's just
no.
Like it's just the sound I make when I stand up. When she asks me to do something, I usually have to go from sitting to standing up.
And like realistically, that was the other thing. Like we'll be sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden I go, and Jared's like, "What was that?" I'm like, I forgot to breathe. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I forgot to breathe. That's what I did. I forgot to breathe, so I had to take a deep breath to make up for the 3 breaths that I forgot to take. That's it. There's no nefarious thing behind it. Nothing wild, nothing crazy."
Why do I get the feeling it was sudden infant death Dino syndrome? Or what?
I mean, am I a real person? Probably not. Let's just
turns out they were a ghost all along. There's your next Blumhouse movie. Okay, anyway. But yeah, the daylight saving time. Yes. It's dumb.
So this is the thing, is that time in and of itself is stupid, right?
Sure.
Even if there's been experiments on the circadian rhythm of your body, which the circadian rhythm is how your body operates during the day versus at night. So like one of the things that right now I'm taking a pill for cholesterol, which I'm trying to get off of. I'm getting there, but they're like, yeah, you have to take it at night because your body produces more cholesterol at night than it does during the day. And you're like, what? So you're going that like, that's a new thing. That's not like, I never knew that. Right. But like that information is key. And I'm like, now I'm taking this pill and I'm like, I think that there's a chance that I've been taking this pill wrong for all the years that I've been taking it, and maybe it's not been doing the job, right? So it's one of those things that it's your body in and of itself is it has its own function, and it is not related in any way, shape, or form to a clock, right? It is just a cycle. And that's the thing, is like during the wintertime, everybody talks about packing on weight and stuff like that. Yeah, that's for the winter. And even I'll tell you, for like how I've been working out, and like right now I'm the smallest I've ever been, but I'm also still 275 pounds, right? Like I'm still a huge person, but I'm building the muscle and I'm reducing fat, and it's going very well. That gets harder during the winter months because your body is like, no, we need fat just in case, the winter comes. Yeah. And that's, and that's the thing, is your body knows that whether you like it or not. Even in warm climate areas, your body functions the same and has those issues during those seasons, right?
Yeah. Like example, I'm from LA. We don't get snow. It's just like, oh, it's nippy. Put a hoodie on. Like that's pretty much it. It rains a little bit, but like That's kind of it. Apparently, we're not a desert; it's a Mediterranean climate. So
It's not. But yeah,
I learned that recently.
it's definitely a desert. But go on. No. I ate a Snickers, and it's all up in my business.
Okay, so it's like that old Got Milk commercial with the peanut butter.
I mean, yeah, that is a real problem, people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like here's the thing: is a Mediterranean. So that's the thing is you're like a desert Mediterranean. Like you're not quite a desert, but you're definitely not Mediterranean because you have also too like LA is one of those places that like having just been during the wintertime, I was like, this is weird.
It is weird.
It's very weird weather because it's definitely not like it has a few cues of desert feeling where you're like it's dry, but it's not excessively dry, but it's definitely not wet enough for winter. Like that's a weird thing, right?
It really I think it depends on where you are in the city. Like if you're on the west side, it gets wet enough to feel like a winter.
There you go.
But if you're like up in the valley, like where I am, it's just like it's fucking just dry and cold.
Yeah,
and, like you can feel your lips chapping while the wind blows at you. Like it's
But also too, California has more people than all of Canada, so
also true.
I mean, that's a fair point.
If girls kiss, no one bats an eye. But if I kiss my homies goodnight, society calls me gay. That's true, but I think the difference is that now compared to when I was in school, because I was talking about this with my students, where like, the word gay used to just be a synonym for bad, right? Oh, I gotta go to detention. That's gay, right? And it's not anymore. You like that's not cool for someone to do.
Cool for me. I love it. Just to be clear, because I was born in the
80s. Generations. But I think the difference is that now, like, yes, the guy will get called gay, but who cares? Like, well, all right, so you're gay. Cool. Like,
see, this is the problem with that, though, is that
your mileage may vary based on your location in the United States.
Also true.
Yeah.
But like, when I would call things gay, that has absolutely nothing to do with your sexuality. Zero. Right? And the idea that was people tried to make that was a thing. You're like, no. Because remember, originally gay was somebody who was excessively happy.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's gay. It's weird, right? Like it's the same thing with the word queer. You're like, that didn't mean what it means now. And honestly, I don't think it means what it means now.
Yeah.
It just
means queer used to be a slur for gay people in like the
mid 20th
century. Before that, it was different. It used to mean weird, right? It used to mean weird. Then it meant like a slur for gay people. And then now it's been taken back by the LGBT community where it's just like the adjective for something that is either done by or exhibits notes of being gay or lesbian or whatever. So like queer coding, right? Yeah. Like that's not an insult to say queer coding, but we all know what it is.
It sounds insulting, but that's just me. It's
because you were born in the 80s.
No. But it just it sounds like it's a label that's meant in a derogatory fashion, right? Whereas like in actuality, calling something queer, it means more now what it did before, which was like it's anomalous in nature that I'm like, I just don't understand it. And which is actually that's a reasonable statement because look, criticizing somebody for their sexuality, like I explained this to somebody the other day where I'm like, I don't like over effeminate women. Why would I like effeminate men? And I've met gay men that aren't just men. You're like, oh, you're gay. Okay. Why do I care? That's the same idea where people now will make that so much of their personality where you're like, it just like somebody who's like, well, I'm an accountant, so let's talk about accounting stuff. And you're like, you're a nightmare of a human being because you're not. You're just
you don't have a personality outside of your job. Yeah.
And that's the thing and that's the real criticism of it is like people have made this so much of their identity. And in anything, and look, all we've learned throughout everything is anything in an overabundance, like the darkness of night, can be burdensome or like the brightness of the summer.
Ta-da. Nice turnaround. That was good.
There you go. That's called a segue.
I think the idea more there is just the community of like, I too, have this out or blah blah blah,
Yeah.
whatever. If
See,
I'm getting like so bundled up with it. The other day, one of my kids used the F slur like jokingly, and I was like,
yeah,
nah,
yeah.
because he's like, what's so bad about that? I'm like, okay, well, let me just tell you
Explain the
about
history.
it.
Yeah,
Explain the history. First, the word fag meant a bundle of sticks,
yeah,
and that's also where you get the cigarette term, right? Pack of
correct.
fags, it's a bundle of sticks, right?
That's right.
But over time, the implication was that you would burn gay people with the kindling. That was where that came from.
That's not the insinuation. That's what would happen was if you
Yes.
ran out of wood, you could throw a gay on the fire too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
offensive, bro.
yeah, that's why that's where that comes from, and that's why it hurts so much
Yeah.
for people. He's like, but there's no one in here who's like, I'm like, that's not the problem. The problem is that you keep doing that, and then maybe you say it in front of someone who is, or somebody who might be especially offended, or you say it on social media. Our media literacy unit is coming up.
Well, fair, but
and
not even that.
That ruins your life.
You're practicing bad English, and it's only because of your own stupidity. And you're going like, I didn't understand that term until it was explained to me, and I'm like, wow, that is offensive. I apologize.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And then you move on.
But then I definitely point things out as gay all the time because I'm that person.
Whatever.
But no, that's fine. Hey, for me,
super duper gay. Yeah,
exactly. But that's the thing is being able to have that dialogue and like I excessively love the explanation that was on South Park, where it's like, no, revving your engine on your motorcycle through town when everyone's trying to sleep means you're gay. They're like, but they're not a homosexual. Be like, that has nothing to do with homosexuality. What are you talking about? Why are you being weird? Yeah. And they're like, no, I'm not being weird. You're usually like, no, that's not. That has nothing to do with it. It's absolutely. And the fact that people like, and this is why like we're in a current environment where people are not just embracing, but they're demanding to label everything. When you're going, you know what? It really doesn't need a label. You don't have to label everything. And it's the same thing when you say like, oh, I like to do things this way. And they're like, oh, it's because you're autistic. And you're like, I'm not autistic. I'm just particular about the way I like things. And you're like, no, you're autistic. And you're like, no, I'm not autistic. I'm just crazy. It's not the same. I'm undiagnosed. Thank you very much. But
I feel like that comes from like, now that therapy doesn't have that stigma anymore, people are so quick to want to label something because they're like, oh, I learned about this in therapy. That means other people have it too, or whatever.
Right. And that's and like, but that's the same. And that's like coming back to our topic is like, the fact is that all the things that are happening, like not liking the daytime because it's too hot is valid. Enjoying the nighttime because it's cooler and it's quieter is also valid. Right. So, hey man, I was fat. I get it. It's no people were like, you want to go out? I'm like, what time? They're like, this time. I'm like, is the sun gonna be down? No, I don't want to go. I'm fat. I don't want to move.
You know what I'm realizing? Like, because I have to get up so early and because I have a wife who likes to get up so early just as a person, I'm realizing I don't hate mornings. I hate the middle of the day. From like 10 a.m. to around sunset, I hate everybody. Like you're expected to like, okay, the day's started, get moving. And you're like, I don't want to do that.
Well, and this is the funny thing is that like the idea when you start doing more looking into how people used to live, right? Like, remember factually, we work more now than peasants did or serfs did in medieval times, right? That we work a ridiculous amount, and especially too, like in Toronto. Toronto is a massive city, right? It's got like 7 million people in the greater Toronto area. And you have people who are like, I have 4 jobs. And you're like, what? You have 4 jobs? Like, listen, if you had a job, you should be able to pay your way. If you had, I'm saving for a wedding, or I want to go on a big trip, or I'm doing XYZ thing, I'm saving for a house, something like that. Yeah. Maybe you got a second part-time job to make some extra cash. That was reasonable. But now people are like, oh, I have 4 jobs that I have to coordinate all my schedules around. You're going, yeah, that's insane, right? So the fact is that we've lived in this environment where people are like, no, you have to. And you're like, no, you don't really, because in history, people, number one, would sleep from around noon until 5 o'clock. That's a starter. And that's a siesta. That still happens in Greece, still happens in a lot of places in the Mediterranean.
I thought it was only for like a couple hours. Like 5 hours seems a lot.
It's not. No, 12 o'clock, you leave work, you go home, you have the biggest meal of your day. then you rest for a few hours, and you're back at work 5, 6 o'clock, but you're working until 10 o'clock. Now, when you come home, you would have a snack, go out with your friends, go to bed, sleep for a few more hours, wake up, go to work. Now,
That's
also too, in history, people used to go to, remember, light is still a new luxury, right? So, like, just so you guys understand,
meaning like light, like that.
Yeah. Okay. So my father went to university in Athens, came home, and his mom was like, "Huh? Huh?" And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, now you're big city. You didn't realize we got a light bulb." That was in the 50s. Okay, because they were in there. Where my house is, where my father, his family is it's in the boonies. Well, not in the boonies technically. It's outside of a very large city. So,
Gotcha.
but a very large city in Greece is only 150,000 people.
Yeah,
Not
so
very big.
the suburbs ish,
The suburbs of the suburbs, right? So
the excerpts.
It would be farm country, right?
Okay.
Only now, like for the longest time, it had maybe 1,500 people. Now it's up to like 6,000 or 7,000, but like it's still farm area. People are using all the land for farm.
That
right?
would be like putting 3 of my high schools together. My high school had like over 2,000 people in it.
Jesus, that's a nightmare. Just for like that was a jail, is what it was. That was a youth jail,
more or less. I mean,
how do you control that many kids?
No,
it's impossible, right?
I think how they did it was they sort of like the way the school was set up. You roughly went to an area based on your grade. It wasn't like here's where the science classes are, here's where English is, here's where math is. It was like this column of classrooms is 9. This one is 10th. This one's 11th. This one's 12th.
Sure.
And then the electives are in the back. And like,
but the problem with that is then you don't have people integrating on every level, right? Like that's the whole
Hogwarts houses. No,
basically, but yeah. Like when you segregate people by age, that's not good, right? Like there are a lot of classes, especially in small towns, where they'll have grades 9 to 12 all in one classroom because there just aren't enough kids.
Right.
But that gives an aspect of learning where people can, be fluid in how they learn, because the fact is some people are slower than others, other people faster. Like today, we went to a photography class. This is the second one that we've been to. And Victoria takes notes religiously. I am like constant eye contact with the teacher, and I'm whatever he's saying, I'm doing on the camera because that's how I learn. I need that interaction, and then I need to actually do it in practice. But that's the thing, is everyone is different, right? I retain things that way. If you ask me to write it down, I'm going to retain somewhere between nothing and oblivion. It'll probably be wrong either way. So being able to understand that entire thing, like there's such a focus on division and that isolation, that's the problem. Is like that's where I really try and help people understand is that back in the day there were times, so people used to go to bed with the sun, right? So you went to sleep when the sun went down, but also like because during the wintertime that would be in the early morning, you would wake up in the middle of the night for a few hours, do chores around the house because that was a quiet time to do them, and then go back to bed, right? You would separate that time as well, because you're like, look, you didn't have that opportunity. And especially during the wintertime where there's so much more night, you have to, right? So that's that whole idea, is if you sleep with the sun, it's that whole idea of a consistent time to sleep and to wake, which I'm good at waking up at a specific time. I am not good at going to bed at a specific time, which means I'm old, but that's fine. It's like, I like waking up around 9 to 10 o'clock every morning. I like going to sleep when I'm tired, which is a pain in the ass, because I will just start getting on things and doom scrolling, and then I'm like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Shit.
Yeah.
And that's,
I think if I like in past jobs before teaching, it was I would go to bed around like 10, 11 and then wake up whenever I had to for work, and then go do that. Part of it with teaching is I definitely need more of a mental preparedness.
Yeah.
So like I have to go early just because of the traffic, because otherwise I'll get like right before the bell rings. But also having the time to be like, I'm in my classroom, I got everything set up, I had some coffee, I like took my time instead of other jobs where you just walk in and start.
Yeah. Well, even still, is having healthy sleep is a big component of hormone regulation in your brain. So it's like,
because otherwise my brain tries to kill me. Happy Epilepsy Awareness Month, by the way,
there
everybody.
Ta-da!
It's
Yeah,
November.
it's one of those. Hey, that's an important part, is that like if you don't sleep, you'll be more hard to deal with, you'll be more frustrated with things, you have a shorter fuse, all those things factor in. That's why you're like, it's sleep, people don't realize, is such a huge component. And the older you get, people are like, oh, it's hard to fall asleep. Yeah, well, you got to figure that shit out, because it will kill you, no question. See, and now that brings us into the winter blues. So
seasonal depression is the other word for it.
I am a firm believer that like a lot of people have been taking vitamin D, and now there's a lot of research that's like, oh, you can't just take vitamin D because that may destroy your bones, because you need calcium to process vitamin D. So you have to take magnesium, calcium, and vitamin D, and I think K2, and then you can actually process it properly, and it will make up for it's. I mean,
do you remember those Got Milk commercials from the 90s where the milk mustache? Or
that was like such a huge thing, like for a time, like there was you could be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, or you could have your own Got Milk commercial, and you're like, whoa, like it was a big deal.
Or it's like Carmelo Anthony and he has the milk mustache.
There were a lot. Some of them were absolutely murderously hilarious,
which is so funny to me, like the Aaron Burr one that I was talking about earlier. Which I found out that when Hamilton was new, they had the guy who was playing Aaron Burr do that, like he acted out the commercial again.
Even better.
Which was cool. But like it's so weird that they had like Got Milk commercials when like half the population is lactose intolerant.
Well, so
roughly.
And this is the crazy part, is that you're like, there's such an influx of now lactose free milks and creams and stuff, and I'm like, wow. But also too, I feel like a lot of people who are lactose intolerant are just like, nope, don't care, I'm just gonna crap my pants later. And I'm like, that's a choice. But
pizza's too good. I can't. All right.
Well,
I'm on Johns Hopkins. I keep wanting to say Johns Hopkins website. What are the symptoms of seasonal affective depression, otherwise known as SAD, which that's pretty on the nose? Fall onset. This type is also called winter depression. Symptoms of depression begin in the late fall to early winter. They ease during the summer, and then spring onset, which is, I think, what I suffer from.
Yeah.
Because just like when it's that fucking hot and it's sunny out all the goddamn time, I just want to walk into the ocean.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So the most common symptoms: increased sleep and daytime drowsiness, loss of interest in pleasure and activities, social withdrawal, grouchiness and anxiety, feelings of guilt and hopelessness, all the time.
That's just the 2020s.
Excessive tiredness, decreased sex drive, decreased ability to focus, trouble thinking clearly, increased appetite, especially for sweets and carbs, weight gain, and physical problems such as headaches.
Yeah. See, some of those though seem like they're just, you have more time at home and you don't want to go out because it's cold, right? And also too, like the fact that the morning, like up until noon, that's the best time to be getting sunshine. And most people, if you don't work, you're in bed. If you do work, you're at work. So you're not getting that good sun. And what's left, that was one of the biggest issues that I remember even growing up, was that it's like, oh, I would leave home and it's dark. I come home and it's dark. And you're like, yeah, that's not a problem because of, oh, you're working a lot. It's no. There's good sun during the day that you are not getting, and that's a big problem. You need to get sun. Like, it is a huge component of your mental health, especially during the winter months, because it's a scarcity, right?
Yeah. there's there's a lot of like stuff about light therapy, exposure to sunlight, stuff like that.
The big deal.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things where, like, when you get into it, it's who was I talking about this with? Was that like they're like, me and my group of friends will plan something cool to do one weekend a month, regardless. And you're going, that's the thing is, and there was another guy, he was saying how, like, you only have so many years, right? And if you spend all your time working, that's stupid, right? So it's not necessary that you have to go out on vacation, but you should do some cool event at least once a quarter, and something really good like vacation as a family or whatever once a year. But like those other cool events, that could be like, oh, we went to the aquarium for a day and then we went for a picnic. Like, it was a whole big thing that we planned out. It's not about money, it's about spending time and making memories.
Yeah.
So doing that at least once a quarter, and then doing a longer, like, not just a weekend away, but doing a full like week or two of, we went somewhere and did some experience, makes you, well, it changes how you function, right? Where you realize,
why are you talking about daylight savings and stuff? Because that's the episode title.
Yeah,
come
on,
what we're
Bill.
talking about today. Daylight saving and seasonal depression.
If you look at the bar, it says Winter Blues and Daylight Savings with Generation Dan, episode 169. And don't even think I didn't like the 169. I was like, man.
Oh, well.
I was tempted to put L69 just for the fun of it. But yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Because, listen, I'll tell you why, Bill. It's because today is Daylight Savings. It's on point, sir. Come on.
Now, people hearing this on their podcast app or watching it on just regular ass YouTube, that'll be coming out on Friday. So you'll have had a week of the sun setting earlier. So I'm curious to see people in the comments where they're like, okay, this sucks.
Yeah.
What do you think about all this? Do you think that we should get rid of it? Do we keep it on, keep it off? Do my idea of flipping them?
I mean, like, there's like, and that's the whole thing. I feel like we need a better coping mechanism for it, right? Because I think, like, this is something I've been explaining to people for a while, was that, like, people who are in trades have been responsible for massive amounts of innovation and creation of cool ways of doing things that are new. Science is about making it replicatable and cost efficient. Those are two very different things, right? So, as an example, metformin is diabetes medicine. It's one of the most prominent ones, and it is derived from a bark. People throughout history would just chew on the bark all day long, and it would help them manage their diabetes. Okay, that is actually how it is. Science found a way to replicate it, manufacture it, make it more efficient. Here, just take this pill. Yeah. So it's that idea. Now, of course, the best thing to do, being someone who's now a month and a bit off of diabetes meds, is get in shape, you fat fuck. That's what you have to do. That's go be active, figure out your diet and do better, and don't eat an entire box of Halloween candy in one sitting. You know, not that I'm not going to do that, but sometimes. You know?
This morning I weighed myself. It is the first time I've slipped under 230 since I was like 22. This is probably undoing all of that, but still pretty funny. So
as an adult, I have never been under 242 pounds. While I was cutting weight recently, I got down to like 250. I think it was 252 was my lowest. Now I'm trying to beat all that, but like 230, I would have been like grade 8.
I like your idea of, like, to fight the seasonal depression, have like do at least one cool thing a month, and then have the vacation a year. Now, granted, money is its own problem, but like you can still do something as simple as, like, why don't we just go to the beach or go get, like, my teacher neighbor, next classroom to me. Like, she's the first person I met at the school I work at. She's super cool, but she's also and like doesn't want to talk to anybody most of the time. So, like, whenever I try and get her to, like, come have lunch in my room because I eat with a couple other teachers, she's like, nope, I'm good. I like the solitude. And I was like, understandable. Do you want to get a beer before Thanksgiving? And she's like, yeah. So I like the idea of, like, we're setting that up even though she's kind of a reclusive person, it's still something to look forward to.
Sure.
Especially because, and I've mentioned it on the show before, October is the worst time to be a teacher. So now that we're in November, I'm just like, oh, finally. Yeah. Although I do have one last thing. My formal observation is this week. So one more hump, and then it's November, which is not so bad.
Look, you haven't beaten any children, and you love your wife. That's good. Like those are two big pluses when it comes to teachers. You're like, hey, no shenanigans and no shenanigans.
I don't think my principal is going to be like, all right, going through your pedagogy and you love your wife, 1 point to you. And I don't think that's going to matter.
I feel it should, sir, and that is a fault of your system. That is like this is the wild part, and I love trying to explain this to people. Was like there's a certain amount of camaraderie and respect when you go, oh, I'm married. You're like, oh, I'm married too. You're like, okay, we are the same now. We are both, we both have spouses. But also too, in a workplace, when you go, oh, well, I have kids, they go, oh, okay, well, you deserve a raise because you have kids to worry about. Well, you're like, number one, that's insane. Number two, I get it because people know how hard it is to have kids. So it's like, there are certain things. And then but now people are like, oh, I'm married and have kids. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, oh, but you're also an idiot and a garbage person. And they're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you. You're a bad person. We're not the same. Just there you go. Right. And that's why, when I say coping mechanisms, I mean, there should be a summertime way of doing things and a wintertime way of doing things. Like we've started hanging out we've been friends with other couples for a long time, but they would always send us pictures of, oh, we went hiking, we did this. And because Victoria and I are trying to do our best to get in better shape progressively, we're like, hey, we'd love to go hiking with you guys. And they're like, great. And the first time I complained the entire time because it was very mountainous and I did not enjoy that. And then they're like, hey,
wait, hang on. How long ago was that this happened?
Oh, would have been August.
Okay.
Maybe July.
Yeah. You were into your weight loss journey.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't like that long ago and you were like, I'm dying,
No. Well, that's the thing is because I've been fat for 40 years, still fat, let's be honest. My knees are shot and all that kind of stuff is so.
My elbows are shot because I'm an idiot and kept falling on them. Because I would go roller skating or skateboarding and being like, who falls on their elbows? They're itchy, and then just wham, wham, wham every time.
Yeah, so. that's and that's the thing is, for me, I'm like, I can walk on a flat surface. For a while in July, I was doing 20,000 steps a day, which was no problem because I would go to a track by my house and just do laps for about 4.5 hours, and I do 20,000 steps, no problem. But if you're like, hey, let's go into a forest where it goes up and down and up and down and up and down, I'm like, I'm gonna murder everyone in this forest very shortly, and I'm not moving. I don't care, right? So it's one of those things where I'm trying to become better by way of that. And afterward, they were like, hey, was it really that bad? I'm like, no, I'm just being stupid. I apologize. I know it sounded really negative, but I really did enjoy myself. So we've progressively gone on a few other ones. They were the same couple that a couple years ago we went tubing for the first time, which I'll tell you was amazing. But that's the thing is we went tubing. We were out there at 10 o'clock in the morning. By 2 o'clock, we left and got something to eat. And you're like, that from 10 till 2, we're in the sun, just enjoying ourselves. We're properly attired. So for me, I was actually, my winter coat has straps on it. So I can take it off and just hold it by the strap. So I'm getting sun because I was overheating. So I'm perfect. I'm cooling down, but also enjoying more sun. Right. So it's that, I think that we have to become the best part about this time of history is that people are getting more knowledgeable of how their actual body works.
Yes.
And how
they're not just it's the bad humors. You need leeches.
Yeah, well, some people need leeches, let's be honest. But it's the idea where you're like, hey man, if you eat garbage, you'll feel like garbage. And now that I've cleaned up my diet so much, I ate all this candy and already I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna crap my pants. Right. So it's knowing that you're oh yeah, you can't have I'll give you a perfect example. So I went and got a Starbucks. Now, for the longest time, I would get a cold brew with sweet cream. Now, the problem with that is they add sugar to the cold brew.
Yeah.
They do not add sugar to espresso. So instead, I get 5 espressos on ice with a little bit of heavy cream. That's it. And I feel 10 times better afterward because
you feel
it's
10 times
sugar.
better, and you can see the concept of time because that's a lot of fucking caffeine.
In my defense, I'm the size of 2 people still. So
Sure.
2 small people, but still 2 people.
Okay, fair enough.
So I tried to explain something. So a pharmacist got mad at me because I told them that you're supposed to take like 2 Tylenol and you'll be fine. I take 3. And they're like, it doesn't work that way. And I'm like, okay, but if I take 2, I don't feel better. And if I take 3, I do feel better. And they're like, well, it doesn't. And I'm like, okay, but then also like plan B doesn't work if you're over 180 pounds. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they're like,
said I'm 2 people, so 2 works for one works for the other.
So, and to compensate for that, you're like, because I take Advil instead of Tylenol, just to protect my liver. But I'm like, okay, that means it goes through your kidneys, which means I have to take a lot more water. So I do that, and I'm like, listen, and they're like, okay, fine. And I'm like, hey man, it's one of those things where yes, you are smart and you're the one who provides this prescription. However, I'm the one experiencing the ultimate pain of every man, the common cold. It's not the same. So worse than pregnancy. So it's fine.
I get the feeling if Katie and I have kids, she'll come on this episode or on this show while pregnant and excoriate the both of us.
Yeah, that's fair. It'll be fun. It'll be great.
It'll be
fun. Not for you. I'll have a great time. You'll have a horrible time.
Okay? Yeah, because then we'll hang up.
Yeah,
she will. But the when we did the discontinued snacks episode, she's like, "Why didn't you ask me? This is my domain."
Hey, as soon as she wants to, just by all means, she's welcome to come on.
That's what I said. Let's do a part 2 or something.
Absolutely.
So what's the one conclusion I can bring this number to? I should really clip that for the show. So that's from When You're Good to Mama from Chicago. I'm gonna clip that anyway. What's the one conclusion I can bring this number to? Is that during the winter or the summer, whatever it is that makes you feel like garbage, winter, summer, go outside early in the morning before it's not like when the sun's just rising, but like 8 a.m. Yeah.
It's adjust your process to let you expose yourself to the sun. That sounded weird. I mean, get more sun. Don't expose yourself to the sun because that's a different thing.
Just go out in a trench coat.
Yeah, and just be like, sun, here's the show. Yeah. No, that's fair. That also might work.
Yeah. Go be Winona Ryder.
Listen, sometimes you just have to. That's
so
what God made mushrooms. Yeah.
That and his thing of plan something once a month.
Yeah.
Fun for you, fun for your friends. If you don't have friends, get a hobby. I keep saying this on this show too. Hobbies.
Okay, but your hobbies are all indoor hobbies. So get an outdoor hobby during the winter.
No, not about the seasonal depression, but about the making friends part. The hobby gets you to meet other people with the same hobby. And you were saying about, now we're on the same team. You birdwatch, I birdwatch. You do geocaching, I geocache. You do wine tasting, book club. Whatever the fuck the thing is. Get a hobby, make friends, go out, plan something once a month with your hobby friends.
Or if you're cool like me, you're join a fight club. You'll have a great time. It'll be fine. Look, also,
slowly crushing your opponents does not count as fight club. That's crushing your opponent's club.
Still a win, sir. Regardless. Okay. I can't even do that anymore. At least people had to fear me for that. But that's fair. I think that's one of the things. Look, if you can't get out daily to get some sun, at least try on your lunch hour, and then also to plan something during the weekend where you're out for a significant amount of time, if you can, or depending on if you work on the weekends, then during the week, whatever. But the days you have not to work, maximize the amount of sun you get, and that will help you turn the tide to not feel like doo-doo.
Yep.
There you go.
And if this is during the summer that you get seasonal depression, wear sunscreen.
Yep. That is fair.
Yep.
That has been it for us. Where can everyone find you, Atlas?
You can find me at Atlas Novak wherever social medias are found. I might leave Twitter soon. I'm not sure, but it's both Atlas Novak there and on Blue Sky. So that's always the case. Nexus at Night, my other show, which is about the trading card game Card Fight Vanguard, streams every Friday at 6:30 Pacific. Go ahead and check that out. You can also find us, the both of us, at Generation Dan on Twitter, and I should probably make a Blue Sky account for us at some point, just in case.
I have no idea what Blue Sky is. It sounds like something out of Mission Impossible, so I love it.
It's like the Kroger brand Twitter, but Twitter keeps getting shittier, so it starts looking like the better option. That's the best way I can describe it. Anyway, where can they find you?
At Dino the Genetic Marvel on everything, and I am this close to being fully monetized where you get ads on my stuff, so please go check out a few shows, watch them, leave it running in the background. I don't care, but help me, help yourself, make it so everyone has to suffer with me. I think that's only reasonable, but ultimately, please check all our stuff out. And
Life of Giants, Hammered and Cheese, Mondays and Tuesdays respectively.
Life of Giants tomorrow. We are talking about the incident with I want to say Taylor Kelch, Jason Kelch,
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelch. That sounds like a good name.
Yeah.
Also, somebody used the F-bomb, and there were consequences. I feel like it's something that we're definitely going to talk about, but also about mental health. And then on Tuesday on Hammered and Cheese, we are cooking, and we are doing updates on the election. That is going to be basically a nightmare fueled by fire, which I'm excited for because I don't live in your country. So fun times, but please check it out. And I believe we are looking at also, there's going to be a finance show called Make It Make Sense. That's going to be coming out soon as well. Well, it's going to be me and Cole, and I'm going to teach him how money works. Should be interesting.
I kind of like that. Now, you're going to have to account for Canadian versus US dollars.
I'm looking at, I don't have, no, absolutely not. That's not, no. There are rules, and currency is not one of those rules. I'll tell you that much. But don't worry, we're still piecing together. It's going to be in the next little bit, so feel free to check it out, everybody. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, and let us know how that sun's affecting you.
Bye, everyone.